Good afternoon and happy Thursday, everyone. It is Scott Wohlers with River Place Capital. It is Thursday, April the 2nd. I want to take just a brief minute to discuss what equity markets did last week as we continue the volatility in markets with the war in Iran continuing on. The S&P 500, though, was down 2.12% last week. Um, Believe it or not, though, the S&P 400, which is the mid-cap index, was positive 44 basis points or 0.44%. And you had the small caps as measured by the S&P 600 up 1.2% on the week, leading the way. And why is this? And if you look at the last 4 weeks in some of these smaller names and look back to where we were heading into this conflict, small and mid caps were leadership in the market. The value sector was leadership in the market. We were selling some of those mega cap growth names and we were buying some more value oriented names. And so what you're seeing is a market in these smaller names that were up in the small caps close to 10% on the year, and you've seen them come all the way back down to almost flat. And so you're seeing just a little rebound here, and these are some technical things, as well as you're just seeing oversold territory. And as we fast forward into this week, last Friday and Monday, especially in a lot of these mega cap tech names, it was classic kind of what we would say washout behavior in the equity markets. Volumes were incredibly high in these names. There weren't individual headlines that would be such catalysts to have such big drops and massive selling pressure in some of these names. And you have some of these high tech earning or high growth tech names that are great values now, trading at multiples that we haven't seen maybe since the last 4 years ago and maybe 2022. And so you saw that Monday, and then you fast forward to Tuesday. There's a headline, market's kind of rebounding a little bit. You get to around lunchtime, there's a headline that breaks that the Iranian president may be willing to entertain the terms of a ceasefire. And then the markets take off. The Dow finishes up over 1,000 points on the day. The NASDAQ was up over 3% on the day. It was a wonderful day in markets. So the moral of that story is when we're dealing with these macro events that are causing volatility and uncertainty in the market, it's important to stay steady and stay the course, because you never know when the headline's going to break that's going to turn the market, and when it turns, you don't want to miss out on that. And so you saw that this week in equity markets. You saw follow through Wednesday, and then last night the president addressed the nation and spoke on the continued operation in Iran. And while markets were thinking maybe we were going to be wrapping this up sooner than later, you're having maybe some conflicting headlines today. You saw the market open up down around 500 points. At one point, it was positive today on the headline of Iran and Oman working together to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, let oil flow through. So you have all of these massive headlines that are happening so quickly in the market, and then if you're not in, you're missing out on these. If you have some dry powder on the sideline, it's never a bad idea to start maybe looking at some of these names that have had some massive drawdowns, and the fundamentals still remain very strong for a lot of these companies. You have revenue and growth rates trading higher than PE multiples on some of these names, either saying investors don't believe in the future earnings and revenue, or they've just gotten incredibly oversold and very cheap. So what we see moving forward is continued volatility until this is wrapped up, but these are always short periods of time when you look back historically. So please try to remember to stay the course. If you have questions about how to navigate this market while we're going through this volatility, let us know. We're here to help and talk through it. As always, you can reach us online at www.riverplacecapital.com or give us a call. You can reach us at 904-346-3460. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your week.